By turning its back on Tron Ares while giving Superman so much applause, America has turned its back on the spiritual. It's a collective way of telling the rest of the world that would rather have directors stuff their bellies with plot dump candy instead of making films that are meaningful, reflective stories. I'm sorry. Even gurus lose their shit when dealing with cinematic ignorance. Today I choose to forgive director Joachim Ronning for committing the crime of making a Disney film that is better than its box office numbers. For making the unforgivable mistake of a film that is more apt for spiritual seekers than your overdramatic exes. On the bad end of this film's moral conflict is Julian Dillinger, a young man who inherits Dillinger systems and thrusts it onto a risky path of expansion by willing his master control into the real world, even if for a very little time. As a character, he is driven by a sense of legacy and wishes to use Ares as a means to get unprecedented power vested in the Permanence Code. Over the course of this narrative, Julian becomes the equivalent of a rich spoiled brat who has been given unlimited Wi-Fi. Conversely, on the good end of this equation, we have Eve Kim, the CEO of a tech company called Encom, which is popularly known for the games it develops. As a person, Eve Kim's core is threatened and fundamentally shook when her sister tragically passes away, leaving her almost alone on her path to find the Impermanence Code, as supposedly left behind by the legend of Tron, Kevin Flynn. I do want to point out that Eve Kim might not be the best written character in the story. While she has the ability to carry the Permanence Code within her, she fails to carry much depth. As a result, not being able to reflect the brilliant points that I am bringing out and laying out in front of you so effortlessly. Tron Ares as a film itself is special because it shines despite its bad characters instead of because of them. Human behavior regarding what we see as the grid becomes an excellent mirror to expose the truth behind each of these characters, the fundamental truth that doesn't change irrespective of how they have been written. Julian, at the end of the day, employs methods of imitation and hacking into systems, as opposed to Eve, who ends up carrying the code within her. And in response to this, when Julian expresses a readiness to kill the carrier for the sake of the code, on a very deeper level, if you actually look at it, he seems to be incapable of understanding the code himself, because of which, to me, Ares decides to betray Julian because he realizes that his path towards understanding the code at the end of the day lays in friendship or maitri with Eve. This act becomes reminiscent of a Buddhist willingness to even slay your own creator if need be, if that person is obstructing your path towards righteousness and enlightenment. Ares as a protagonist is carved out of a struggle between inheritance and inspiration. And in this way, he mirrors to a certain sense a lot of human beings who have been ascribed certain roles in society and also are born with the ability to transcend these very roles. Unfortunately, as human beings, we are born following orders and chasing identities, and we die doing so. Most people call this destiny. I call it Instagram. But Ares, on the other hand, finds an original path for himself, making him a much needed hero for today's cinema. As opposed to the other main characters of the story, One of the hidden meta-cinematic elements that our filmmaker grants our protagonist is the power of the point of view shot that philosopher Gilles Deleuze calls the perception image. Through this perception image, our character during certain meditative moments of the story actually seeks to process and understand the reality around him. And this very perception lays his path towards inspirational transformation, as opposed to Athena, who is also granted certain point of view shots. However, for her, perception is a sense of being strangulated by reality and the fears of the unknown. Ares' perception is tested when he is sent in as Master Control to hack into NCOM systems, and he comes out of it a changed man. In a beautiful moment of bittersweet transformation, while he was sent to disrupt the systems, he ends up realizing Eve's entire past and understanding that she might be the right person who would constitute the carrier of this code. By design, the Master Control and his counterparts are born with a very low sense of consciousness. Only for a duration of 30 minutes can they remain conscious and alive in the real world, and after which they have to go back and plunge into unconsciousness to be willed back again by their master. Now, notable mystics like Gurdjieff make similar claims about the average human psyche, carrying at a time very small durations of consciousness with them, constantly interrupted by the outside world. This becomes a basic measure of human spiritual impotency that you can also see in a man like Julian, who carries a level of impulsiveness and desire to gain power. So it is natural for his creations to therefore mirror a similar level of consciousness. On the flip side, what he seeks is the code of permanence, the sense of nirvana, that is desirelessness, which comes out of a sense of selflessness. Even though Ares is built out of such low consciousness, just like the rest of us, he carries the potentiality to reach a level of enlightenment, a level of state of complete consciousness. To me, Tron Ares is a way of understanding that within us we carry a potential to be an Eve Kim or a Julian, the potential to retain our luster, our aura, and our sense of directed consciousness even when we go into the grid, into unconsciousness, and at the same time be vulnerable to the idea of a Julian, to make other people the object of our passions while ourselves remaining impotent and ending up as a destructive force that not only destroys people around you but also ends up escaping reality into unconsciousness when all the options have run out. However, within us there is also a witness that chooses whether to be an Eve or a Julian, and that chooses what kind of game they want to play in life. In conclusion, I am the only guru capable enough of looking at a Disney commercial film and managing to find Nirvana in it. Here are 3 lessons about Tron Ares I'd like to depart with. As much as he might want to hide it, Jared Leto in this film is the closest he'll ever get to enlightenment. 9 Inch Nails over the decades has proven to be synonymous to cinema. If you look closely, this film really exposes Oedipus to be such a complete loser.